What's up, guys? It's MB Boxing, and I just finished up watching Joe Smith Jr. versus Steve Geffrard, and this was a 12-rounder for the WBO Light Heavyweight World Championship. And this fight was Saturday, January 15th, from the Turning Stone Resort and Casino in Verona, New York. And this fight was broadcasted on ESPN, ESPN Plus, or on the ESPN app. And in this fight, Joe Smith Jr. was able to get a 9th-round stoppage victory over Steve Geffrard to successfully defend his WBO light heavyweight world title for the first time. So leading up to the stoppage, I had it 80-72 in favor of Joe Smith Jr. I had him winning all 8 rounds leading up to that 9th round where the stoppage happened. So, Steve Geffrard did have some competitive rounds early on. Like in the first 4, he had maybe 2 competitive rounds that you could have given to him, maybe 1. But otherwise, as the fight was going on, Joe Smith Jr. started to get better, started to come forward a bit more, started to break down Geffrard, and he ultimately got the stoppage. So in those first 4 rounds, Geffrard really just kept that high guard, like I was saying in my prediction video that he always has, just keeping his ground, trying to defend Joe Smith Jr. shots. He was also able to land some nice counters on Joe Smith Jr. early on, some nice left hooks, but it was really just the work of Joe Smith Jr. that won him this fight. He was coming forward a lot, trying to break the guard of Steve Geffrard, and he was going to the body, to the head, and trying to really get through that really high guard, because early on he did have some trouble trying to get through it, but ultimately as he was breaking Geffrard down, Geffrard was really just a punching bag a bit as the rounds were going on, because early on he was trying to land some counters, and he did land some nice counters, as I mentioned before, mainly the left hook, but then as the rounds went on, really, Joe Smith Jr. just started to pour it on, start to come forward more, he started to land his shots better, and then in the 5th round, he ultimately was able to really hurt Geffrard with a nice straight right down the pipe, backing him up, stumbling him a bit, and really just starting to beat him up and break him down in the corner. And then, the 5th round sounded, but then, I thought that Joe Smith Jr. continued to win rounds in this fight, and then ultimately in the 9th round, as the round a couple minutes or a couple seconds through it, in the first half of the 9th round, Joe Smith Jr. was able to land a nice shot backing up Geffrard. Then he was able to get him in a corner and sort of pin him there and land a barrage of punches, a lot of them landing, some of them blocked. He was just going ham on him, throwing 16 punches, I believe it was. There was a 16-punch combo, I think, and he was landing just so many punches in that corner, really just trying to stop Geffrard, and then Geffrard ultimately went down because of that. And then, whilst he was down, it didn't even look like Geffrard wanted to get up. He was on his knee at 8, but then his corner stopped the fight. So, Joe Smith Jr. getting this nice victory, as expected, getting the stoppage over Geffrard. It was a nice, easy defense for him. But what is next for Joe Smith Jr.? I know that Geffrard was a late replacement, but otherwise, I don't even think Callum Johnson even is the greatest opponent. It would have been a much more fun fight, considering that Johnson has very good power as well. He was able to drop Beterbiev, but more into what's next for Joe Smith Jr. I would like to see him possibly fight Canelo Alvarez in May. That's a possibility. He can maybe fight Artur Beterbiev. Maybe a rematch with Bivol, but that's a little unlikely. And he could possibly fight Gilberto Ramirez, who, I'm not really too sure if he's in the WBO route or the WBA route. We'll see as time goes on. But, I think that Joe Smith Jr. probably might face Artur Beterbiev, being they're both the top rank, both champions, and it'll be a very fun fight to watch, and a very good fight that really fans want to see. So for Steve Geffrard, now 18-3, losing for the 2nd time by knockout in his first world title defense. He took this fight on 8 days' notice, so props to him for taking it, because apparently Joe Smith Jr.'s team asked 12 contenders. Apparently, that's what it said on the broadcast for this fight, that they asked 12 contenders for this fight, and Steve Geffrard was the only one that accepted. So props to him, but still he got the loss, so he'll probably just continue fighting lower-level opposition, just like he was doing his whole career. He hasn't really fought anyone except Joe Smith Jr., so, he'll probably not get a big opportunity next, maybe in a couple fights, but, so he's really only got this fight with Joe Smith Jr., not really any other big fights, and he'll probably continue to have a fight against lower-level opponents, getting some nice easy victories, and just building up some wins on his record. So overall, Joe Smith Jr. defeats Steve Geffrard by knockout in the 9th round to get his 28th victory, 22nd by knockout, and to successfully defend his WBO light heavyweight world title. And that's really it. I'm MB Boxing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.